Imagine this, you're a guy named Sam, living in Boston for let's say 15 years. You left Uganda with big dreams, a suitcase full of hope, and probably some really good Rolex recipes. You've built a life, you work as a nurse, you pay the taxes, you even understand what a bomb cyclone is, a major achievement. Your kids were born here, they speak with American accents, they think a trip to the local mall is a huge adventure. You have a mortgage, a car payment, a favorite spot at the local coffee shop. You are, for all intents and purposes, part of the American fabric. You've woven yourself into the tapestry. A colorful thread, but a thread nonetheless. Then, one Tuesday morning, the phone rings. It's not your cousin asking for money. This one is different. A call from an immigration official. There's a problem with paperwork from a decade ago. A missed deadline, a forgotten renewal, an old asylum denial. Suddenly, words you've pushed aside are front and center. Removal proceedings. Order of deportation. Your whole world starts to feel like it's made of Legos and someone just kicked the table. You face being sent back to a country you haven't seen since you were young, a country your children have never visited. This isn't hypothetical, it's reality for thousands of Ugandans in the U.S. They exist in a strange limbo, part of a community, but one administrative decision from being uprooted. Neighbors, colleagues, friends, carrying low-level anxiety that life here has an expiration date. Their life could be taken away, not for a crime, but by a complex, unforgiving immigration system. This is the human starting point for a larger international conversation. And that's where our story really begins. It's about policies and politics that hold a future in the balance, a negotiation between the United States and Uganda. This isn't just paperwork, it's a high-stakes discussion affecting real people, real families, and the meaning of home. The deal will decide whether Sam stays in Boston or takes a one-way ticket to Entebbe. So, what exactly is deportation? It's the formal removal of a foreign national from a country for violating its immigration laws. Think of it like being kicked out of a club. You might have gotten in, had a good time, maybe even bought a few drinks. But then, the bouncer, ICE, taps you on the shoulder and says, "All right, party's over, you gotta go." It's the U.S. government's way of enforcing its rules. And like any club, the U.S. has a long list of rules for who gets to stay and who has to leave. It's a process that is both legally complex and deeply personal for those who go through it. Now, why does the U.S. deport people? The reasons are as varied as the people themselves. The most common one is simply being in the country without permission. This could mean you overstayed your visa. You came on a tourist visa and never left. Or perhaps you entered without inspection. Another reason is committing certain crimes. Even green card holders can be deported for aggravated felonies. Aggravated felony, or a crime of moral turpitude. Categories that can be surprisingly broad. The legal framework is vast, frankly, a bit of a maze. Laws have become stricter over decades. What wasn't deportable in the 1980s might be now. Policies shift with administrations. Enforcement priorities change. One administration may focus on serious criminals, another may pursue broader enforcement. This creates uncertainty. The rules can change halfway through someone's life here. For the U.S. government, it's about national sovereignty and the rule of law, maintaining order, protecting national security, ensuring fairness to those who follow the rules. So when they identify someone like our friend Sam whose legal basis has expired, the system initiates removal. From the government's point of view, it's upholding the law, a formal bureaucratic process, but for people, it's life-changing. Next, what happens after the order is final? Once the final deportation order is issued, the process of sending someone back to Uganda begins. It's a journey that's as much psychological as it is physical. It's not like they just drop you at the airport with good luck and a bag of peanuts. First, the individual is typically detained by ICE. This can happen during a targeted raid or a routine check-in. They are held in a detention center, essentially a jail for immigration violations. These centers are scattered across the country. Detainees can be moved from one to another, often far from their families and legal support, making communication difficult. The next step is getting the travel documents. This is crucial and often a major point of delay. ICE contacts the Ugandan embassy or consulate in the U.S. They present evidence that the person is, in fact, a Ugandan citizen. This might include a birth certificate, an old passport, or testimony from the individual. The Ugandan consulate then verifies the information. If satisfied, they issue a one-way travel document. This verification can take months or even years, leaving the person in limbo. When the travel document is secured, the physical removal happens. Deportees are escorted by ICE agents, often in handcuffs and shackles. They board a waiting flight. These are not commercial flights where you pick your seat, often chartered planes with other deportees heading to Africa. The journey is long and fraught with anxiety. For someone who spent years in America, they're leaving their entire life, their home, their job, their friends, their immediate family, including U.S. citizen children. The arrival in Entebbe is the final, jarring step. After landing, they are handed to Ugandan immigration authorities. They are processed and questioned about their time abroad. For many, a moment of profound disorientation. They are back in a country that is no longer the home they remember. The sights, the sounds, the currency, the culture all feel familiar and foreign at once. The American dream has ended. The Ugandan reality begins. From the Ugandan government's perspective, this is complicated. It's not simple to say, yes, welcome back to everyone the U.S. wants to deport. First, there's the question of identity and verification. Kampala must ensure those sent back are genuinely Ugandan citizens. If they accept someone who isn't Ugandan, they become responsible for that person. It's a matter of national security and administrative integrity. They can't just take America's word for it. They need proof, and getting that proof can be slow and meticulous. This verification is a major sticking point. The embassy must interview potential deportees in detention centers and vet documents. Sometimes the person left is a child and has no documents. Sometimes only an old expired passport exists, or testimony from distant relatives back home. Uganda often argues the U.S. doesn't provide enough information or time. They are wary of being rushed into accepting individuals whose citizenship they can't confirm. That leads to delays and friction with U.S. authorities who want speed. Beyond paperwork, political and social considerations matter. Accepting large numbers of deportees is a political headache. Returnees called Banakieyo in Uganda can face significant stigma. They are sometimes seen as failures, or worse, as criminals. Reintegration can be difficult in a different economy and social climate. Uganda lacks robust programs to support returnees. An influx could strain local services. So, Uganda often slow-walks the process, a form of soft resistance. By taking time, they control the flow and gain leverage. This hesitation is leverage in relation to the United States. If the U.S. is keen on deportations, Uganda can ask for something in return. It could be development aid, security cooperation, or diplomatic concessions. Uganda's reluctance is strategic, part of a larger geopolitical chessboard where the lives of deportees are the pawns. If Uganda is hesitant, why is the United States pushing so hard? The answer lies in U.S. domestic policy and global enforcement strategy. For administrations focused on enforcement, the inability to deport someone is a major problem. When a foreign national has a final removal order, but their home country refuses to take them back. In Zedvitas v. Davis, 2001, the court limited detention when removal isn't foreseeable. This creates a recalcitrant country problem when travel documents aren't issued. When countries delay or refuse to issue documents, the U.S. faces backlogs of deportees. These people can be released under supervision and live in communities while awaiting resolution. They check in with ICE but live freely, a situation criticized by enforcement hardliners. It's seen as a loophole, catch and release. Enforcement wants to stop it. So pressure on countries to accept nationals back becomes a priority for ICE and DHS. The U.S. has a powerful tool, visa sanctions under Section 243(d) of the INA. They can suspend tourist visas, student visas, even diplomatic visas in some circumstances. For Uganda, where business, government travel, and education rely on U.S. access, this matters. Visa suspension can disrupt trade, diplomacy, and exchange. It can disrupt education and diplomatic relations. That creates immense pressure on Kampala to cooperate. Washington wants a streamlined, predictable process. They want Uganda to commit to clear timelines for verification and document issuance. Timely issuance of travel documents is key. This is also about sending a message to other countries. Securing a deal sets a precedent and shows the U.S. is serious about enforcement. It's a push for a more orderly global deportation system. Negotiations matter to Washington. They want a clear timeline and reliable verification to clear backlogs and reduce recalcitrance. Behind the high-level talks are real people. Take the case of a man we'll call Julius, deported to Uganda in 2018 after nearly 2 decades in the United States. He had a wife and 3 American-born children in Minnesota. He was a community leader, small business owner, a model resident. But a minor criminal conviction from his youth was flagged by immigration, something he thought was long behind him. Despite a lengthy legal battle, he was deported. He arrived in Uganda with only the clothes on his back and a few $100s. Julius's story highlights the immense challenge of reintegration. He spoke English with an American accent and had lost touch with local dialects. He struggled to find work. His Minnesota business skills didn't translate to Kampala. His family in the United States was devastated. His wife had to work 2 jobs. Their children grew up without a father. They communicated through WhatsApp video calls, a painful reminder of distance. His story is not unique, a pattern repeated over and over. These are not hardened criminals, often people who made a mistake years ago or fell through the cracks. Consider another typical scenario, a young Ugandan student on a visa, who fell in love, got married, and the marriage fell apart before immigration was secured. For years they live in the shadows, working low-wage jobs and always looking over their shoulder. When picked up by ICE, they are often disconnected from Uganda. Uganda can be a distant memory. They have no professional network, few savings, and often no family support back home. Their deportation is not a return home. It feels like exile to a foreign land. They stand alone among faces they no longer fully belong to. These examples show the deportee population is diverse. Children brought as infants, political activists, elderly longtime residents. Each case is displacement and loss. The negotiations between Washington and Kampala are not about numbers. They're about fates of individuals caught between 2 worlds. The impact of these deportations extends far beyond the individuals. Deep and lasting ripples affect families and entire communities, here and in Uganda. In the U.S., children of deportees, many U.S. citizens, are immediate victims, forced into single-parent households and immediate financial hardship. Emotional and psychological trauma affects school performance and well-being. They are American kids paying the price for a parent's immigration status. This creates terrible choices. The American spouse, the U.S. citizen children, do they stay or uproot? No easy answers. Moving to Uganda means leaving schools and friends, leaving the only culture many know. Saying goodbye to friends is devastating for children. In Uganda, healthcare and education can be limited compared to what children knew in the U.S. Economic opportunity may be scarce. Returnees arrive with few resources and can burden strained local communities. Those who stay in the U.S. live separated by a flickering screen. In Uganda, some returnees have family support, many do not. Many arrive isolated without social or financial safety nets. They arrive with little to their name and can create social tension. Viewed with suspicion or resentment, perceived as failures or tied to criminality, different accents, mannerisms, and expectations make fitting in hard. The local economy may not absorb skilled returnees. A software engineer in Chicago may find few opportunities in rural Uganda. This leads to underemployment and frustration. The Ugandan government is aware and reluctant to speed up the process without reintegration support. They see deportations as importing a complex social problem they cannot easily handle. The negotiations are a delicate dance of diplomacy, pressure, and self-interest. At its core, the United States wants one thing: a fast, reliable process. Washington is pushing for a formal memorandum of understanding with clear timelines. For example, interviews within 30 days, travel documents within 60 days if citizenship is confirmed. To get this deal, the U.S. uses a stick and a carrot. The stick, the threat of visa sanctions under Section 243(d). The carrot, development aid, technical assistance, reintegration funding. Technical assistance for immigration systems and border control can be offered. From Uganda's side, goals differ: maintain sovereignty over who is a citizen and ensure thorough verification. They push back against rushed processes that could accept non-citizens. Forensic verification and careful record checks are their priority. They use negotiations to seek concessions, including funding for reintegration. Ugandan diplomats likely raise concerns about treatment of their citizens in U.S. detention centers. They may ask for more humane conditions as part of any deal. They also want a good deal. Key sticking points: timelines, standards of proof, and disputed cases. What if the U.S. is convinced someone is Ugandan, but Uganda finds no proof? Who decides? Disputed cases are a major friction point. Uganda is likely asking for financial and logistical support to build reintegration capacity. They might argue that if the U.S. creates this problem, it should help pay for the solution. The final agreement will be a compromise balancing enforcement needs with Uganda's sovereign concerns and resource limits. When we zoom out, what does this all mean? The negotiations are more than administrative. They are how global migration policies have very real human consequences. On one side, the U.S. grapples with complex immigration politics, enforcing laws systematically. For Washington, it's rule of law, border integrity, and a clear message about enforcement. For Kampala, it's sovereignty, resource management, and social stability. They are cautious about accepting thousands of people who have been away for years. People may be disconnected from culture and need support to rebuild their lives. A go-slow approach is administrative caution and diplomatic maneuvering. They try to protect interests while navigating a powerful partner that holds many cards. Caught in the middle are the Sams and the Juliuses, the human element. Their lives, families, and futures are what's truly at stake. A signature in Washington or Kampala can determine whether a child grows up with their father, whether a family stays together or is torn apart, whether someone with a life built in one country is forced to start over in another they barely recognize. The Uganda-U.S. deportee deal highlights the fundamental challenge of an interconnected world. It forces hard questions about citizenship, belonging, and responsibility. What does a country owe to a citizen it hasn't seen in 20 years? What responsibility does a country have to families left behind? The final agreement will set a precedent for how we handle the human reality of migration. It's a story about paperwork, yes, but it's also about people trying to find a place to call home.